Just Ask Digital Accessibility and the Dyslexic Community. What does being dyslexic mean to you?
To be dyslexic is to have difficulty with words. So that's the literal translation from the Greek. So dys meaning difficulty and lexia meaning words. And it's a neurobiological difficulty which results in a weakness in the phonological module of the brain, and more specifically with phonemic awareness. So as a dyslexic, you have trouble identifying and manipulating the individual 44 individual speech sounds in language, and then also mapping those sounds to symbols, so understanding the alphabetic principle. So to be dyslexic means that you will then have difficulty decoding words, so taking print to speech, and then also encoding your spelling, which is taking speech to print, so spelling words. And so it's because of this weakness, this problem in the phonological module, it means that you have challenges with reading and writing, and it also can affect your working memory. But it doesn't mean that you can't read and write. It just means that you're going to have to work, and this was my experience, just have to work a lot harder to be able to read and write. So for me, that's what dyslexia is, and it's also affects working memory, so being able to hold on to more than one idea at a time, and you know, your organizational skills and things like that. So that's been my experience of what it means to be dyslexic, and it just means working really, really hard to be able to become literate. But when you are able to do that with explicit teaching, explicit systematic cumulative teaching of the alphabetic code. And that's once you can do that, then you can achieve many wonderful things. It doesn't have to limit you as long as you get the right support. And the sooner that we can identify children who have these challenges, dyslexia, and we can give them the best evidence-based intervention, then they can succeed and they can thrive and they can grow, but we need to support them. And so I've been very lucky in my life, being a dyslexic, that I've been supported by some wonderful people. And so that means that I can achieve, and I've been lucky enough to go on and become a teacher and a literacy coordinator and a member of Code Red Dyslexic Organisation and an associate member of the Australian Dyslexia Association. And so now I'm really like I've got good skills with the English language, with being able to decode and encode and being able to mentor others and help other dyslexics and all children. So for me, dyslexic, it's a big challenge, but the benefits that have come from it have been me tackling the challenge with support, and then using my knowledge to help further to help other people. So that's what being dyslexic means to me. Just, you know, overcoming challenges. Yeah, there you go.
What does it mean to me to be dyslexic? Well, as a young kid, I sort of got diagnosed with dyslexia when I was sort of in my later sort of school years in primary school. So it was one of those things where, you know, you get told that you've got a learning difficulty of some sort, and, you know, you sort of, as a young kid, you sort of think, oh, man, am I stupid, or, you know, is it a bad thing or anything like that? And, you know, it was one of those things where you sort of, the older I got, and, you know, at that young age, I got given such a good support group. Here in Adelaide, I had my tutor, Mark LeMessurier, who just took me under his wing and really gave me the confidence to get to where I wanted to. My mum, my friends, my teachers at school were wonderful. They liaised well with Mark, which was great. You know, they kept me moving forward. And I was saying that, you know, my goal at high school was just to finish. My goal was, I knew at the end of high school, I needed that little piece of paper that said I'd finished year 12, because, you know, a lot of other people are looking for TERs of 99, or, you know, to get into uni, to do this, that, and the other. And, I had to understand and learn that, okay, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I just learn different to somebody else. So I might not be a rocket scientist. I might not be a doctor. But to be honest, that's not really what I wanted to be anyway. And I don't think my personality might really suit that either. But, it was all the support, for them to help me get through school and learn that I'm not stupid. I learn differently. And, it's actually helped me the older I've gotten. I try and think outside the box. Why everyone tends to, go by the book. Everyone just goes, oh, yeah, well, that's worked. I might as well just do that again. Well, no, that's not necessarily the way it should work. I perceive myself as an outside the box thinker. So when somebody else is doing something, I might not necessarily understand exactly how to do that. So I kind of sit there going, well, I guess for me, I'd probably do it that way because I don't necessarily understand how to do it that way. But this way is different to somebody else. So it's really a massive positive that I can sort of do something a little bit different to someone else and really think outside the box.
Question. I think I'm 34. I only got diagnosed 2 years ago. So being undiagnosed as a child and most of my adult life, it's just, I was talking to somebody about this question just before, and it's made me more resilient. I've got a very can-do attitude, and I will do everything. It just made me very resilient. That's all. It hasn't stopped me from becoming or doing things I want to do. It's just made me stronger and more resilient at everything I do. I'm just doing it.
Do you spend much time online or using computers?
Yes, I do spend a fair bit of time online and using computers. So we live in a digital age. In my life as a YouTuber, as Rocking Dan Teaching Man, I've used computers to create songs and animations. So that takes a bit of time on the digital world, and then uploading it to my YouTube channel. So to help children with their learning. So with music and repetition with the music, it helps children with their learning. So yes, I do spend time online and using computers a fair bit.
I do. I live my life on computers. I live my life on social media, especially, just because considering, being an athlete, being a coach, being sponsored by lots of people, being, a professional strongman for 15, 16 years as a weightlifter for Australia for about the same amount of time. It's very important with sponsors that I have to, promote their product, have a social media awareness. I'm, coaching a lot of athletes from around the world, overseas in Europe and New Zealand, all kinds of different places. So in doing that, I obviously need to be online because the world is more connected now than ever with online type of stuff. So, it's very much an online world we live in now. So yeah, like I said, with just social media sides of things, with business and with work, and even now, I've stepped away from competing in professional strongman now into circus. So a lot of the stuff I do now is a lot of stuff that needs to be learnt on doing stuff, promoting that and all that type of stuff as well. So yeah, it's an online world we live in.
Funny you say that. No. So since COVID has started, I have had to use computers more than I normally do because of uni. And even though my lecture is online, I struggle with that stuff. Honestly, I struggle. It's just too much for my brain. And so half the time I probably don't watch my lectures. But when I do use online, like when I do go on Facebook, I don't sit there and read everything. I just do a scroll, look at funny videos, scroll, because I find it too hard to read things, and because Facebook is not dyslexic friendly. So I'd rather watch all the funny movies, like in the clips. But yeah, no, and if I do use the internet for like research and stuff, I try and use my software that I have so that it can read it to me so that I can understand the websites better.
What do you like to do online?
What do I like to do online? I like to go into discussion groups, especially around reading and the science of reading and dyslexia, and further my knowledge that way by learning from other people who are very knowledgeable about reading and dyslexia. I also like to online upload videos to my YouTube channel, Rocking Dan Teaching Man, and yeah, just absorbing the world of music, and listening to music and those sorts of things.
Online. I like to do what anyone likes to do online. Surf. It's one of those things where I love to do my coaching online. So I love to do my, sending out programs to athletes around the world, critique athletes around the world, work with people. A lot of the stuff I do when I do shows and stuff like that, it's learning from people overseas and that type of stuff. And the world's been more connected now than ever. When I first started lifting weights when I was 14 years old, things were still just mainly in books. You'd have a little bit of stuff online, but most of the stuff was in books and stuff like that. So this connection that we've got from around the world is just so, beneficial in ways, and it's really good. And like I said, I get to promote what I do. I get to show people the strongman stuff I do. I get to show people the athletes I work with. It's a really positive thing as well, because there's a lot of negative stuff that comes out of social media and a lot of negative stuff that comes out online, but trying to keep pushing the good stuff online is what I enjoy to do.
Not much really. I tend to use, I can't say because I tend to use Siri, and when I do, I like just to Google random history stuff, or what's the difference between this and this, just random stuff. I use YouTube to watch funny videos because I don't have to concentrate and try and think about what the words are saying, because it's just funny stuff. But yeah, that's all I like to do.
How does being dyslexic affect your online experience?
I don't really think being dyslexic affects my online experience too much, because I've been able to overcome so much of the literacy barriers that I experienced as a child. So I'm literate now, and I'm very fortunate to have had the intervention that I've had to be able to read and write proficiently. So for me right now it hasn't, but I can imagine as a child today who's dyslexic and it hasn't got a solid foundation in the alphabetic principle, being able to map sounds to letters and blend them together and effectively read, that being online would be a big challenge. So in the past, it would have been a huge challenge for me.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like using, for example, the coaching stuff. So it's trying to make sure everything's written properly, making sure all the spell checks are done right, making sure the sentences make sense and stuff like that. But even just, reading a whole lot of stuff, and you sort of sit there going, it can be quite encumbersome sometimes, and it can be, overriding sometimes. It's just one of those things where it's having to take that big, deep breath, stop for a minute. And I'm really big on checking, doing 30 checks before I've actually written something, and mine's still terrible. The amount of guys I know that just, you just send it to me and I'll spell check it, do it for you before you put it up. Just don't put it, and and that's what I mean. I've got so many good people around me that just go, look, before you put it up, send it to me, let me do the spell check, let me do this, and then you can put it up. So I'm also very lucky like that as well, that I've got some good people around. But it's one of those things where I almost have to really slow it down a little bit, really take my time, and just, it's good, like I said, in a way that you've got this awesome world we can hook into. But then sometimes, again, I can only imagine for people who suffer a lot more with maybe the visual side of it, that would just be overawed by, because there's just so much. There's so much out there now.
Oh, a lot, because I struggle with trying to focus and I strain to understand the writing, like the reading stuff. And when I get to that point where I struggle, I give up. So I just, yeah, it doesn't haunt me to go on the internet. I just wish that some of the websites and stuff were dyslexic friendly, so that the experience can be more enjoyable.
What are the top 3 things that would improve your online experience?
That's a good question. So my online experience is pretty good. So I think it's the way you use it, and I would say, as a child, someone who was really illiterate as a 9-year-old, and then coming through high school, if we had the online world back then, I think there are some things like speech to text apps that were very helpful. So you can orally say what you want, and then that types it out for you. So that would be helpful. Things like spell checks are very helpful online. But again, you've got to have enough of the alphabetic principle to be able to get close enough to be able to spell those words. But those things are handy. So assistive technology for dyslexic people, for literacy, are things that could improve an online experience. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm one of those types of people, I guess. Like I said, for me, it's just about making sure I do my own checks. But I guess, I'm not too overawed by everything online, but sometimes it can get a little bit sort of too much too quickly. I think that's almost for anybody, not just people suffering with dyslexia. I think it's just for anyone that sort of does anything online. It's just so there in your face. And, that's, I guess, what I was saying before about just slowing down a little bit and just letting it sink in more than anything else. Like I said, it takes me time to read through a whole lot of stuff. And, if I'm doing stuff when I was at school, it always took me that little bit longer, and just having to slow it down a little bit. So, I think if things just were a little bit, I guess, friendlier to a little bit less in your face sometimes, and a little bit sort of more spread out, because I think in the society we live in now, everything is compact and right there, we kind of miss those moments and times where it's slow and almost big, and just taking that moment to just think about everything, because everything needs to be done right now. Can't be done 10 minutes down the track, it's be done right now. So, even doing like tests and stuff online when I've had to do coaching, stuff where I've had to do sort of upgrades on my coaching courses and stuff like that, it can be quite, pumped through in your face, and you really push. So, it's not too bad, all things considered. Like I said, I don't get too badly overawed, but again, like, I could totally understand why people, just normal people would get overawed by it.
Just making
Perfect, thank you.
Making like a button, that dyslexic people could use, like press, and it reads the websites to you. Having more pictures and stuff, I really learn better with pictures, so that I can understand what they're trying to say. Because I could look at a picture and tell you, 1,000 things about it, and it's exactly what you're reading. So yeah, just more pictures, and a button so that it can read it to you, so that even if I don't want to read those words because I struggle with it, I can at least hear it and see the picture, and I can then understand it properly. So that's mainly about it for me.
What would you like people to know about being dyslexic?
So dyslexia is not rare. It's the most common learning difficulty, and that dyslexic people are just as intelligent, if not more intelligent, than neurotypical people. It's just really at the root of dyslexia is that problem in the language centers of the brain, that phonological and phonemic awareness. So once we can overcome that problem, that we can achieve anything. So that's what I really want people to know, that to be aware of that, and also to have a look at how we teach dyslexics and identify them as early as possible, so that they can live and thrive. And really, we can get dyslexics early enough, identify them and teach them early enough, then we can really change the trajectory of their lives. Yeah, so that's what I'd like people to know about dyslexia. They really do need the explicit, systematic, cumulative, multisensory teaching of the alphabetic principle, and if you can do that, they can thrive.
That it's not the end of the world. That you're not stupid, that you're not dumb. That, you know, it's just another way of learning. That, you know, you will still grow up to be whatever you want to be. If you want to be a fireman, you can be a fireman. If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. If you want to be go to space, you still can go to space. You just got to learn things a little differently to someone else, which is actually not a bad thing, because it means you're not like everyone else. It means you're different, which is cool, considering society these days, everyone is almost the same. So always look at things in multiple different ways. Don't just look at it like the same way everyone else does. Don't just think of yourself as stupid or dumb. Try and think outside the box. If you see something that someone's doing that doesn't make sense, ask them, learn from that person and go, okay, well, that's the way he does it. Okay, maybe I should do it this way. Learn from each other, you know, and people, you know, the older you get, the more you learn, people will help you more. And never, ever, also, I guess to finish off, never, ever think people aren't there to help you. You know, there are people out there. You just have to work and find them, and, you know, find those goals and grab those goals with two hands and kick ass with it.
Oh, I've been asked this question before. I just want people to know that it's not a disease. It's a disability. And it doesn't matter that even though I have a learning disability or other people that have got dyslexia, we're not stupid. We just think differently, you know, and we have our weaknesses and strengths as well as anybody else in the world. So we're not a disease. It's just a learning difficulty. That's it. You know, we're not, you know, people that are either, it doesn't matter what disability you have, don't treat us differently. You know, we're not aliens. We're just a human being that will want to get on with life. We just need things to be done a little bit differently so that we can understand it better. You know, I never used to like going to uni before I was diagnosed, because I just thought I was, I don't like to use the word, but I just thought I was stupid and I just didn't understand, so I didn't bother. But now having that diagnosis behind me, it's made me realize, you know what, I'm not stupid. I just don't understand it the way that other people do. And I just need that extra little help to understand it in the way I understand it. So I enjoy going to uni when before COVID hit, so that I could ask those questions right there and then. Because now a lot of people rely on the internet for emails and stuff. I don't even bother checking my emails. And when I do, I use my software on my phone to read my emails to me. So, yeah.